I'm here with Paul Gavin, the chairman and CEO of SG Blocks, and we're talking about what they're doing here at Five Star Expo. So, Paul, could you tell me a little bit about just kind of how the company came together and where you got this idea to do what you do?
Sure. So I had a background in affordable housing in New York, housing homeless men and women with HIV and AIDS for a couple of decades, and was just experiencing a lot of frustration with the cost overruns and the quality of traditional construction. It was inhibiting our ability to house people that were living at risk.
Yeah.
And so I met a couple of gentlemen who built a container house in North Charleston that's still pristine today, and it took them a whole 5 minutes to convince me to jump on board, and we founded SG Blocks. Stands for Safe and Green, and we're the premier provider of container-based construction in America.
So, kind of tell me a little bit about how the process works. Obviously, everybody has a pretty good view of what a shipping container looks like. So, is it just about sort of stripping it down to the framework and then modifying it from there, or is it just vary depending on what sort of project you're doing?
A little bit of both. The process of building with shipping containers is interesting because it's more deconstruction than construction. So we remove walls and window holes and apertures and can combine the spaces like Legos, both vertically and horizontally, to create living space, workspace, school space. In this instance today, I'm here on behalf of SG Residential, which is our new single-family house company, which we just launched. And the prototype house we walked through today is the first example of that. And it's our belief that through efficiencies and prefabrication systems and good solid design, we're going to make home ownership affordable regardless of location or income or asset class you live in. And that we think that we can help make the American dream alive again for millennials who are covering couches all over America. And I think I had about 50 parents ask me if they could take the container we built here today and
I believe that.
hashtag free their couch.
How you talk a lot about both affordable housing and also like just the fact that there's not enough inventory out there right now. So how does one of your prototype houses, once things get up and running, how is that going to compare to the cost of constructing a typical single family house?
Our single family house product is exceedingly stronger, better, it's greener, it's recycled. On a price per square foot basis, we're about the same as stick built, which is a pretty low cost of construction. We always talk about economic impact as much as price. We'll have your house finished in a third or half the time as traditional construction. So if you factor in your loan interest and your builder's risk and your site foreman and all the problems that traditional construction does, we get you open in half the time, you're renting half the time. So we're a better economic proposition, of which price is one component.
With your background in working in affordable housing, is this something that you see real applications for as far as that side of things, not just for single family homes, but as far as dealing with the homeless situation? This is something that lends itself to providing lots of housing for folks in a very cheap manner?
We are a really good, high quality product for low and moderate income individuals and families. Our backlog in our company is filled with apartment buildings, multi-story, multi-family. The single family house market is something that we're putting a lot of time and effort into, and we think they're going to be one of the key pieces of the future of the solution for housing in America. Just think about this. When a couple gets married, they buy a house not just for today, maybe they buy a house for when they have children. So maybe they buy a 2,000 or a 2,500 square foot house. If they're like most married couples, they live in one room. So what happens if you come to SG Blocks and we build you a 3-container house of 1,000 feet that's very affordable, and you move into it, and then you want to grow your family? Well, we can densify your house without you moving. We could add space, bedrooms, second floors, horizontal. So we're right-sizing living in America.
That is an interesting notion of just being able to expand that easily. One other thing you talked about real quick that I wanted to hit on was obviously everybody here is kind of talking about disasters a lot because we have a hurricane hitting the East Coast right now, and you mentioned durability. So, um, is that something an angle that you guys are really talking about a lot? Just the fact of how does this compare to a traditional home?
Anybody who knows anything about construction would rather put their family in a steel structure during a hurricane than a wood or a block construction. And all you have to do is watch the news every time there's a storm in certain parts of this country or around the world and see how wood stands up to gale force winds. Our product, an empty container is 8,000 pounds. It holds 50,000 pounds of commodity, and it holds up 8 siblings at sea. So the bottom container is holding up well over 500,000 pounds of load while undergoing an earthquake and a hurricane at the same time. One of our main missions is to bring safe housing to people that live in maritime environments, tornado environments, coastal exposure. It doesn't make any sense to be rebuilding every house after every storm. And so if there are any insurance companies out there that do property and casualty, you should come to SG Blocks because you're not going to replace the home after the storm.
Well, thank you for talking to us today, Paul. I appreciate it, and thanks for coming to the 5 Star Conference.
Our pleasure, and thanks for stopping by the home.